Hey guys, so still trying to find a rhythm here after the passing of one of the children. But something went on within the events of that night, and it leads me to want to speak about. Let me just move my camera. It leads me to want to speak about some of the questions that we are left with when serving God and dealing with those real life matters like death, which we all must partake in. For how else would we know that we're alive? How else do you know something's hot until you've known it's cold? How can you know the value of life unless it comes to an end? So it doesn't make it any easier, and it will be a memory that lives with me forever, because I carried a boy who was laughing and joking with me. A matter of hours before, he was laughing and playing and joking in his hammock, and a matter of hours later I was carrying him dead in my arms. And of course I'll never forget it, but I'll always remember his smile over that event. I'll ensure that is how I remember him, is from his smile. But it's a strange feeling to have a child that you love so dearly, and to realise that the light has left him now. To realise he's dead in your arms, very, very strange feeling. It's not something I hope many people have to go through in their lives, to be honest. But it's something I'm preparing myself that I must get used to. Death is very common here, and the death of children is equally as common here, especially those who can't receive the best medical care, like the ones in our care who have special needs. But what I actually want to speak about here is something that went on. Is whilst he was fading and I ran to the cars, two vehicles did not start. Now I'll take you through the events of the night and what happened. I was outside and one of the single mums came and said, "Emmanuel's not well." Nearly every day someone comes to tell me a child's not well. Maybe they're vomiting, maybe they have a fever, something like this. You know, with more than 60 children living in your care, someone's sick most of the time. And when they came, I went in expecting the norm, you know. And I could see he wasn't very responsive to my voice, which was not normal, or to my touch, which was not normal for Emmanuel. And I shone a light in his eyes and there wasn't a lot of response then, and I said, well, this is very serious. So I ran to the vehicles and I had the key for the four-wheel drive. I turned the key and nothing happened. And the battery was flat. So I ran to the new car, the Noah, and I at first had to run to the house and get the key for the Noah and then start the Noah. Nothing happened. Then I had to look for the key for the other car, because that's the driver's car, that's Ali's car. I never drive that car. I found that key, and finally we got going. By the time I got to the hospital and I lifted Emmanuel out of the car, I knew I was carrying a dead child. I knew, but I still went in with a bit of hope. But the doctor confirmed, and within a few minutes they put a white sheet over his face. Now, at first everybody here said that Satan got in the way of me saving his life, and that Satan had flattened the car batteries, but we still don't understand why two car batteries were flat. This doesn't make any sense. There's no logical explanation for it at all, guys. The cars were used as normal. They just had flat batteries. There's just no explanation for it whatsoever. And then naturally it did slow me down getting to the hospital. And it was only last night whilst I was praying that God kind of nudged me as if to say, you make a presumption. You make a presumption that it was Satan or the negative energy that made those vehicles not work. And then I realised perhaps it's my own reasoning to feel better about it, I don't know. But when I get an intuitive feeling, I tend to feel it's from God, and perhaps God was telling me, no, it's his time now. He's got pain in his body, and his smiles are there, but they are not constant. And perhaps he was going to have even more pain. And perhaps what happened is just and merciful, that a child who lives in pain is now not in pain. I know that there is life beyond here. I know death's just the beginning. So perhaps he just shed his light bulb and the light went on. Now, many of you might say that's not a good way to look at it, or might not agree, but this is just how I came round. I had two options. I could either say he died because some bizarre chance happens that my batteries were flat, or perhaps he would have died anyway. But the guys here say, look, maybe God is calling him home. After I said this today, everyone said, yeah, you know, he struggled, this child. Perhaps it's not so bad. Perhaps God was telling you, I'm more powerful than you, yeah? This is not your time to save his life. This is your time to let him go. So, none of that changes the fact that he's not with us anymore and that we miss him and that there's still an empty cot. For all I need to put a child in that bed, I just haven't been able to do it. There's still an empty cot because it's still Emmanuel's cot, and his funeral's tomorrow, and I think we'll be able to get past everything a little better after tomorrow, once we've buried him. And it hurts when you look at that empty cot because it's normally filled with a little cheeky grin, you know, before bed. But some nights it was filled with a cry because he'd be in pain or he'd be unsettled and couldn't tell you what it was that was unsettling him. But what I wanted to tell you is, whilst all of that was happening as well, Fritzi was in Hamburg. Her father sent her a flight and she was sorting out seeing friends, family, and also a wedding dress because we're getting married in June, not long. So she didn't get to do those things because she came back early when she heard Emmanuel had died. She didn't want to stay there. And the night I picked, it was the very next day. Fritzi changed her flight the same night, and the very next night she was back in Tanzania. The very next night when Fritzi arrived, I picked her up at the airport. And it was a very stressful journey because unfortunately we drove past a dead body on the road. On top of everything else, a man had clearly been hit by a vehicle at some speed, from what we found, but there was already one person on the scene with a torch, so we didn't stop. We knew that it was going to be taken care of, and normally we would stop, but there was someone already there. And the guy was clearly dead. There was no way you could help him. I was very stressed, and when I was driving home, I said, really, is there anything else you want to throw at me in the next 48 hours on top of this, you know? And I just made my video a few days before about signs from God, and I didn't say this in there, but in amongst the books that I've read about 1111 and angel feathers, as they call them, or getting feathers from God, I read about the signs from butterflies that people get, and I've never had them myself. Never have I had that. And I had a guy recently who came here to visit for a couple of days, who's helping us. You met him on the videos from last night, a DJ. He spoke about signs from butterflies as spiritual signs as well. And I've had other people tell me as well about this going on. And I wish I'd mentioned it in that video, but I didn't. And because it's not something I've personally experienced. When we got home and we opened the door to our living room at 10:30 at night, there were 9 butterflies. Never seen it before, and I doubt I'll ever see it again. There were 9 butterflies fluttering around in our house in the living room. And it brought a great deal of comfort to us for some reason. And Fritzi said Emmanuel had sent them to lift the energy in our house, to make sure I was okay, because I was struggling a little bit. That I hadn't been able to save him. So, and that this boy who I loved was dead in my arms. So. But 9 butterflies. And those events, they defy explanation. And I would unfortunately never have a camera running all the time. I just hope that you can have faith and trust that these things go on in the lives of those of us who have surrendered to God. And if they're not going on in your life, then they can't go on in your life. You've just got to alter your behaviour, your consciousness, your vibration, and let God do what he does. So anyway, 2 cars did not start. We can make of that what we will. Either it was chance, which never happened before, or God wanted to make sure that Emmanuel was not disturbed whilst he passed. Or something negative stopped me from saving him. I don't know. But I know to have 9 butterflies floating around in your house at 10:30 at night is not normal. So, not moths either, butterflies. Butterflies, big beautiful wings. Kipapeo, as they say in Kiswahili. So we bury Emmanuel tomorrow, and still hurts a lot, and we're very grateful for all the kind words and prayers and everything else. And a lot of people asked me on Facebook if there's anything they could do for the family, and there is. I opened a fundraiser to build them a house in March. I didn't have any donations whatsoever up until now. I've put it online, and we are nearly halfway there to building his family a house. And they need it, guys. They've got little children there, like 7 little children with grandchildren and children included. And getting them a nice house will mean the kids get to sleep well, and this is their first step to getting out of poverty, you know. And also for ourselves here, it's a good way to honour the memory of Emmanuel, because I'm sure he would approve of his brothers and sisters and his mother and father having a nice house, somewhere comfortable to sleep where they're not getting sick from the bad weather, so, or invaded by the nature, as often happens up in the mountains. I'll always miss him. I love him a great deal. He was a wonderful boy. He is a wonderful boy. And, yeah, I know we'll meet again. Anyway, God bless.